So what? Who cares what anybody is? That was the whole point of my tweet. Just because they're skin folk don't mean they're kinfolk. You know what I mean? Just because they're skin folk don't mean they're kinfolk. You know what I mean? Just because they're skin folk don't mean they're kinfolk. You know what I mean? And I'm about to go crazy sitting here on the earphone hearing the stuff you all are saying about the Ukraine. I'm about to have a heart attack, but I'm not even going to go into it. I'm from the Ukraine. The Ukrainian, there is a large faction of Nazis. I don't know if you know this, but there's a large amount of Nazis in the Ukraine, and they actually killed my whole family.
The New York Times is out with a new piece on Ukraine's, quote, thorny history with Nazi imagery in its military. Quote, troops' use of patches bearing Nazi emblems risks fueling Russian propaganda and spreading imagery that the West has spent a half-century trying to eliminate.
Journalist Glenn Greenwald commented on the piece, tweeting, amazing article from New York Times about the rather uncomfortable fact that photos of Ukrainian soldiers and leading battalions so often include Nazi symbols and flags. For a decade, the Western press warned Ukraine's fighters were dominated by Nazi units. Yeah, this article exploded on the internet yesterday because, frankly, as we well know, for months, viral image after viral image has been circulating of Ukrainian soldiers with various kinds of Nazi symbols on them. There was the incident where Jon Stewart was awarding a medal to someone who ended up having Nazi tattoos. It's the incidence of this happening in high-profile photos on the front cover of these major newspapers, etc., is so bizarre that it leads one to the conclusion that you can't escape, that this is not some incidental, accidental, small, marginal number of people in this military force who are openly touting Nazi ideology.
I'm from the Ukraine. There is a large faction of Nazis. I don't know if you know this, but there's a large amount of Nazis in the Ukraine, and they actually killed my whole family. I'm from the Ukraine, and they marched my entire family, grandmothers, great-grandparents, 10 siblings out into the forest and buried them alive in the Ukraine. So I don't understand why everybody's Ukraine. Well, I do understand, and that's also what terrifies me. People better wake up and do some research on their own instead of buying what comes across on the screen. And I try to shake them up. Pierce, you're right, I do. I try to shake them up and crack their mind control programming. I do it for God.
Well, here's, Roseanne, what I would say to that. I don't agree with you about a lot of the stuff you said about Ukraine. I know what you said, and you're perfectly entitled to your views. I would say in relation to the suggestion that they're all a bunch of Nazis.
You haven't seen the swastikas on those
Roseanne,
soldiers' arms?
The
It's
President
in the
Zelensky
news.
himself is Jewish, so obviously he is de facto not a Nazi.
I know, but he's not a good one. Are all Jews the same? For God's sake, talk about anti-Semitic. Just because the guy's a Jew doesn't mean he likes Jews or that he's doing anything good for the Jews. I mean, so what? Who cares what anybody is? That was the whole point of my tweet. Just because they're skin folk don't mean they're kinfolk. You know what I mean?
Then let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race.
No, it's about a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man. That's what it's about.
But it's about white supremacy. It's about going after Jews.
It's not about
ideal race.
But these are two white groups of people.
Well, they go after black people
see them as white.
But you're missing the point. You're missing the point. The minute you turn it into race, it goes down this alley. Let's talk about it for what it is. It's how people treat each other. It's a problem. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, because black, white, Jews, everybody eats each other.
What's your thoughts? Please be respectful with your comments. Also, please click the like, click the notification bell, and subscribe to this channel.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11, verse 10.
explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, Genesis 14, verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was Abraham, born in the city of a black man, called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was Jacob had 12 sons, for real, and these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10.